Hi everyone, it's Ardith, and I'm excited to be here today as a creative guest for Wow Embossing Powder for the month of August. Remember when you first learned to emboss? How amazed you were? To me, embossing is still as magical as it was 12 years ago when I started, and with all the variety of Wow powders I have available in my collection, I know I'll never get tired of it. For storage, I put a sample dot of each powder on its lid so I can easily reach for the color I want in my drawer. For today's card, I decided to let a simple technique with a rainbow of embossing glitters be the focal point of my card. I started with a strip of plain white cardstock that is just longer than the width of my card, and I coated it with a thick coat of embossing ink. This is clear, sticky ink that dries very slowly so that your embossing powder will stick to it. I poured a small amount of my pink powder onto the end of the strip, tapped off the excess, and then poured it back into the jar before moving on to my next color. When I poured it over, it only stuck to the sticky ink. It doesn't stick to where the pink powder is or contaminate it in any way. I continued along my rainbow, working my way through the 5 colors until the cardstock strip was completely coated. I tried to tip as much powder back into the containers as I could, but if I saw it was getting contaminated with another color, I just left it in the blue container and I threw it out when I was finished. When I use my heat gun, I often put the piece into this shoebox lid that I have lined with aluminum foil. I don't know if there's any science here, but my thoughts are twofold. First, I save my fingers from being burned, especially on a piece like this where the powder goes right to the edge. Second, I think that maybe the foil reflects the heat back to the bottom of my piece, and hopefully that means less warping. I also make sure that my heat gun is good and hot. That's also supposed to reduce the warping. If your piece does warp, just put it under something heavy and it'll slowly flatten again. When all the embossing powder's melted, you can see just how spectacular the sparkle is in these powders. Next, part of my sentiment is going to be this die cut Happy from Essentials by Ellen. I cut it out of white cardstock so that you can see how amazing this black Twinkle embossing glitter is. To make it easier to emboss these tiny pieces, I created a kind of handle with a thin strip of white cardstock. I coated it with temporary adhesive and attached my letters to it, with the good side face up. I noticed that I automatically put them in the correct order. Do you do that too? I guess it's an easy way for me to make sure that I've got them all. Anyway, I coated the letters with the embossing ink and then poured over the embossing glitter and heated them. When you look, you can't see any of the white cardstock at all. The black is opaque and the silver glitter is just amazing. To add a bit of dimension to the letters and make them stand out, I cut another set of letters out of black cardstock and I used a Quickie Glue Pen to glue them together. The tip on this pen is quite small and it allows for a lot of precision. I like to use liquid glue to stack letters because you get a bit of wiggle time, literally. I wiggle the 2 layers until they are positioned correctly, and then I press with my thumbs and fingers to help the glue set. For the rest of the sentiment, I decided just to stamp simply with black ink directly onto the white card base. I chose a script birthday from Essentials by Ellen and lined it up with my Misty, using my glitter strip to help with placement. I removed the strip before stamping, just to prevent any unforeseen accidents, but it all went smoothly. As I mentioned earlier, my glitter strip is the focal point of my card, so I popped it up with bits of foam tape to add a bit of dimension and interest. Before that, I had cut it down a bit from each end so that it would exactly fit the width of my card. To make sure my placement was straight, I got out my score buddy and lined up my card base and then lined up the glitter strip over top. To add the letters to the glitter strip, I found that I needed to use a thicker liquid glue than the Quickie Glue Pen. Again, I'm no scientist, but my theory was that this thicker white glue was able to get into the nooks and crannies of the glitter underneath each letter and stick. I used an acrylic block to add some weight while the glue dried. I started with the Y and worked my way backwards through the rest of the letters. This little trick ensures that you don't run out of space for your sentiment. At this point, I would normally add some embellishment, some sequins for sparkle, but because there's already so much sparkle, my embellishment is these tiny stars from a stamp from another Essentials by Ellen set. I simply stamp them in black. And here's the card. Isn't that sparkle amazing? This sparkly rainbow birthday card is sure to make someone smile. I hope you enjoyed this video. Supply links are listed below and also on the WOW blog. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.